If you're watching this message is not random. You didn't click on this video by accident, and you are not here out of coincidence. Something deeper is at work. There are moments in life when timing aligns so precisely that it feels almost orchestrated, almost intentional. This is one of those moments. If you have felt pressure, confusion, resistance, or subtle opposition building around you lately, understand this clearly. Something is shifting behind the scenes. There are movements happening that you cannot yet see with your physical eyes. Conversations you are not part of. Plans unraveling. Masks slipping. Energy rearranging itself. The atmosphere around you is changing because your life is changing. And as it changes, those who have secretly worked against you can no longer remain hidden. Exposure is not chaos. Exposure is revelation. You may have sensed it before it became visible. The tension in certain rooms. The strange distance from people who once seemed close. The subtle competitiveness disguised as support. The smiles that never quite reached the eyes. As the chosen one, your intuition has always been sharper than you allowed yourself to admit. You felt when something was off. You noticed the inconsistencies. You observed what others overlooked. But perhaps you questioned yourself. Perhaps you gave people the benefit of the doubt. Perhaps you stayed silent. Now the truth is surfacing. The truth cannot stay hidden forever. Darkness can only operate where there is no light, and your elevation has increased your light. As you grow, as you mature, as you step more confidently into your purpose, anything misaligned with you becomes uncomfortable. What once blended in now stands out. What once hid in plain sight now feels obvious. This is not accidental. This is timing. This is a season of revelation. There are seasons for planting, seasons for waiting, seasons for endurance, and then there are seasons when what was buried begins to break through the surface. What was whispered in secret begins to echo in public. What was intended to undermine you begins to expose itself instead. What was done in the dark is coming into the light, not because you forced it, but because your path requires clarity at this level. Why is this happening now? It is happening now because you are approaching your next level. Exposure precedes elevation. Before you step into greater influence, greater visibility, greater responsibility, the hidden opposition must be revealed. You cannot carry disguised enemies into your next season. You cannot build with those who secretly hope for your collapse. So what is concealed must surface. And what does this mean for you? It means confirmation. It means protection. It means alignment. It means that what you sensed was not paranoia, but perception. It means that you are being positioned carefully and deliberately. The revealing of your enemies is not a threat. It is a safeguard. It is the removal of what could not go where you are going. It is clarity replacing confusion. It is truth replacing illusion. You are not losing people. You are losing deception. You are not facing betrayal without purpose. You are witnessing necessary separation. This is how refinement happens. This is how the chosen one advances, by seeing clearly, standing calmly, and allowing truth to do its work. So pay attention to what is being uncovered. Notice who is distancing themselves. Observe who is suddenly exposed by their own words and actions. Do not panic. Do not react impulsively. Simply recognize that revelation is evidence of movement, and movement means you are not stuck. You are progressing. If this message resonates with you, like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to this channel for more powerful revelations. The exposure is happening now because you have entered a higher level, spiritually, mentally, and energetically. Growth is not always loud. Sometimes it is internal. Sometimes it is quiet discipline. Sometimes it is silent healing that no one applauds. But elevation, even when it happens in private, changes your frequency. And when your frequency changes, everything around you must respond. You are not who you were a year ago. You do not tolerate what you once tolerated. You do not entertain what once distracted you. You do not shrink in the way you once did to make others comfortable. There is a new stability in you, even if you are still refining it. There is a new clarity in your thinking, There is a new firmness in your boundaries. This shift is subtle to some, but it is unmistakable in the spiritual realm. When you elevate, lower energies can no longer remain hidden around you. They may attempt to. They may try to blend in. They may even intensify temporarily in an effort to maintain their position. But elevation creates contrast, and contrast creates visibility. Think of it this way. When a room is dimly lit, everything looks similar. Details blur, imperfections hide. But when the light becomes brighter, the same room reveals everything. Dust becomes visible, cracks become obvious. What once appeared smooth now shows its true texture. The light did not create the flaws, it revealed them. Your growth is that light. As you rise in awareness, you begin to notice patterns you once ignored. Conversations feel different. Motivations become easier to read. Inconsistencies stand out more clearly. You begin to sense when support is genuine and when it is strategic. You begin to distinguish between alignment and convenience. This is not cynicism. This is discernment. Discernment is one of the clearest signs of spiritual elevation. At lower levels of awareness, people often operate on reaction and emotion. They overlook red flags because they crave connection. They tolerate subtle disrespect because they fear isolation. They excuse sabotage because they want harmony. But at a higher level, harmony is no longer maintained at the cost of truth. Peace is no longer purchased with self-betrayal. When you elevate, the environment must recalibrate. Some individuals who were comfortable with the old version of you become uncomfortable with the new one. The version of you who doubted yourself was easier to manipulate. The version of you who over-explained was easier to control. The version of you who sought approval was easier to influence. But the elevated version of you does not move from insecurity. The elevated version of you moves with quiet certainty, and that certainty exposes misalignment. Lower energies cannot hide in high-frequency environments for long. Jealousy becomes obvious. Passive aggressiveness becomes visible. Competitive undertones surface. Subtle undermining reveals itself through small slips of the tongue. The exposure is not dramatic at first. It is gradual. It is layered. It unfolds in moments that, when pieced together, form a clear picture. This is divine timing. Nothing is being revealed prematurely. Nothing is being exposed too late. There is precision in this process. If certain truths had been shown to you before you were ready, you might have reacted emotionally instead of strategically. You might have confronted too quickly. You might have burned bridges that needed to collapse naturally. But now, you have the maturity to observe without panic. You are not being attacked. You are being protected. This is the psychological shift that changes everything. When enemies are exposed, the immediate instinct can be to feel threatened. You may think, "Why is this happening to me?" Or, "Why are people turning against me?" But elevation often triggers exposure because protection increases as purpose increases. The closer you move toward your breakthrough, the more clarity you are given. Clarity is protection. If someone intends to undermine you, it is better to know than to remain unaware. If someone harbors resentment while pretending loyalty, it is better for the mask to slip before you entrust them with something significant. Exposure prevents deeper damage. It removes hidden liabilities before they can interfere with your next level. This is not about paranoia, it is about preparation. Breakthroughs require clean environments. They require aligned partnerships. They require trust that is built on authenticity, not illusion. You cannot step into a higher calling surrounded by disguised opposition. So what does divine timing do? It cleans the field. It removes distortion. It brings hidden motives to the surface. The exposure is a sign that you are approaching a breakthrough. Before major expansion, there is often separation. Before visibility, there is purification. Before increase, there is revelation. This pattern repeats across life, business, leadership, and personal transformation. The higher the level, the stricter the alignment. You may notice that as opportunities begin to open, certain relationships begin to strain. As your confidence increases, certain individuals grow distant. As your focus sharpens, distractions begin to fall away. This is not coincidence, this is calibration. Elevation demands alignment, and alignment cannot coexist with concealed hostility. Some people were only meant for a previous chapter of your life. Their role was temporary, even if their presence felt permanent. When your trajectory shifts upward, their position becomes unstable. Instead of adjusting with you, some will resist. Instead of celebrating your growth, some will compete with it. Instead of supporting your expansion, some will quietly hope you remain where you were. But hope is not destiny. What is destined for you cannot be blocked by concealed opposition, and what is misaligned cannot survive prolonged exposure to truth. That is why enemies are being revealed now, not to frighten you, but to free you. Freedom sometimes looks like distance. Freedom sometimes looks like uncomfortable conversations. Freedom sometimes looks like silent realizations, where you finally accept what you have been sensing for months. When you stop forcing connections that drain you, you create space for partnerships that strengthen you. Exposure liberates you from investing energy in the wrong places. Energy is currency. Attention is currency. Time is currency. When you unknowingly pour those resources into individuals who secretly resist your progress, you create friction in your own path. But once the truth becomes visible, you regain control of your allocation. You redirect your focus. You reclaim your peace. That is not loss. That is leverage. You are not meant to fight every battle. In fact, at higher levels, many battles dissolve before you even engage. When truth exposes intent, you do not need dramatic confrontations. You need awareness. You need composure. You need restraint. The exposure itself does the work. Have you noticed how sometimes people reveal themselves without you confronting them? They contradict themselves publicly. They overreact unexpectedly. They expose envy through sarcasm. They distance themselves abruptly. They project their own insecurity onto you. These behaviors are not random. They are pressure responses to your elevation. Your growth applies pressure, and pressure reveals structure. If someone's support was genuine, pressure strengthens it. If someone's loyalty was authentic, pressure deepens it. But if someone's connection to you was based on comparison, control, or convenience, pressure fractures it. You are witnessing fractures because your elevation has increased the pressure of alignment. This is not a setback. It is a sorting. You are being separated from what cannot accompany you. You are being distinguished from environments that no longer reflect your value. You are being positioned in spaces where your growth is not tolerated, but celebrated. But you must interpret exposure correctly. If you interpret it as betrayal, you may respond emotionally. If you interpret it as attack, you may become defensive. But if you interpret it as protection, you will respond strategically. You will observe instead of reacting. You will detach instead of arguing. You will elevate instead of retaliating. Protection does not always look gentle. Sometimes protection looks like revelation, and revelation is mercy. It is mercy to see clearly. It is mercy to recognize misalignment before it causes irreversible damage. It is mercy to outgrow relationships that would have limited your future. It is mercy to realize that not everyone clapping for you wants you to win. You are stepping into a level where clarity is required. The higher you go, the less room there is for illusion. The higher you go, the more transparent dynamics become. The higher you go, the more refined your circle must be. That refinement is happening now. Do not mistake refinement for isolation. What feels like loss today may be preparation for stronger alliances tomorrow. What feels like exposure today may be insulation for greater responsibility tomorrow. What feels like tension today may be transition into your breakthrough. The exposure is not chaos, it is choreography. It is intentional. It is timed. It is aligned with your elevation. And the most important thing to remember is this. If your enemies are being exposed, it is because you are no longer operating at a level where they can remain concealed. You have risen beyond the frequency where hidden opposition thrives. Your light has intensified. Your discernment has sharpened. Your presence has strengthened. You are not under attack. You are under protection. And what is being revealed now is not meant to destabilize you. It is meant to clear the path ahead of you. As exposure unfolds, it does not always arrive with dramatic announcements. It rarely begins with a public confession or a sudden confrontation. More often, it begins subtly, quietly, through patterns, through slips, through energy shifts that confirm what you once questioned. If you pay attention, the signs are there, and they are becoming increasingly undeniable. One of the clearest signs that your enemies are being exposed is that people who once pretended to support you begin to reveal their true attitudes. The tone changes, the enthusiasm fades, the subtle encouragement becomes backhanded commentary. Where there was once visible excitement for your progress, there is now awkward silence or forced acknowledgement. Compliments begin to carry comparison. Praise becomes conditional. Support becomes selective. You may notice that when you share good news, their response feels delayed or restrained. They change the subject quickly. They redirect attention back to themselves. They minimize your achievement by calling it luck or timing. These reactions are not random, they are pressure responses. Your progress creates contrast, and contrast exposes intention. Sometimes the exposure is even more direct. Someone who once stood beside you may begin to criticize you publicly or subtly question your decisions. They may frame it as concern. They may disguise it as honesty. But the consistency of their skepticism reveals more than their words. Their discomfort is not about your choices, it is about your growth. When people can no longer benefit from the version of you that doubted yourself, they struggle to adjust to the version of you that believes in your potential. And instead of celebrating your evolution, they reveal their insecurity. Another sign that exposure is happening is that hidden truths begin to surface unexpectedly. Information reaches you without you searching for it. Conversations you were not meant to hear find their way to your awareness. Details about past actions become clear through small coincidences. Situations that once felt confusing begin to make sense. It may happen through a mutual acquaintance who casually mentions something that contradicts what you were told. It may happen through observing how someone treats others when they think you are not watching. It may happen through digital footprints, tone shifts, or behavioral inconsistencies that finally align into a coherent picture. The revelation does not feel chaotic, it feels clarifying. You realize that what once felt like intuition is now validated by evidence. Exposure often arrives in layers. First, you sense something is off. Then, you notice subtle inconsistencies. Then, confirmation appears through circumstances beyond your control. It is as if reality begins cooperating with your awareness. Pieces fall into place without you forcing them. This is confirmation. Another powerful sign is that others start seeing what you sensed all along. There were moments in the past when you tried to explain your discomfort about certain individuals, and people dismissed your concerns. They told you that you were overthinking. They suggested you were being too sensitive. They reassured you that everything was fine. Now those same individuals begin to notice the same behaviors. They experience the same tension. They observe the same manipulation. Suddenly they understand what you felt months ago. Their perspective shifts. Their language changes. Their alignment adjusts. This collective realization is not accidental. It is timing. When exposure intensifies, it is not limited to your perception. It expands outward. The same traits that were hidden in private begin to manifest publicly. Patterns repeat in front of witnesses. Behavior that was once subtle becomes obvious. The mask does not simply slip for you, it slips for others as well. This stage can feel strangely validating. There is a quiet recognition that you were not imagining things. You were not projecting insecurity. You were not being dramatic. You were discerning. You were aware before visibility was available. And that leads to perhaps the most personal sign of all. Your intuition becomes sharper and clearer. You begin to trust your first impression again. You stop overriding your inner voice for the sake of politeness. You notice that your body reacts before your mind rationalizes. You feel energy shifts in rooms. You sense motives in conversations. You recognize when alignment is genuine and when it is strategic. Clarity replaces confusion. You no longer feel the need to gather excessive proof before honoring your instincts. You do not need dramatic evidence to justify healthy boundaries. You simply observe, process, and adjust. This sharpening of intuition is not paranoia. It is refinement. It is what happens when you stop silencing your perception to maintain comfort. It is what happens when experience teaches you to listen closely to subtle cues. The intuition of a chosen one is not random. It is developed through sensitivity to patterns. It is strengthened through adversity. It is sharpened through betrayal and growth. Every time you ignored your intuition in the past and later realized you were right, you learned something. Every time you felt a quiet warning and dismissed it, only to face consequences, your awareness deepened. Now you are no longer dismissing it. You have always felt when something was off. Even in environments where everything appeared stable, there was a subtle tension you could not explain. Even in relationships where the words were supportive, there was a tone that felt misaligned. Even in opportunities that seemed promising, there was a detail that did not sit right with you. At the time, you may have second-guessed yourself. You may have blamed your past experiences. You may have convinced yourself that you were overanalyzing. But elevation changes interpretation. What once felt like anxiety now feels like insight. What once felt like fear now feels like discernment. And now reality is confirming what your spirit already knew. This confirmation is powerful because it closes the gap between perception and proof. When perception stands alone, it can be challenged. When proof arrives, it solidifies understanding. Exposure bridges that gap. It allows you to align your internal awareness with external reality. You begin to see patterns repeat in undeniable ways. You notice that the same individual who subtly undermined you in private now contradicts you publicly. You observe that someone who claimed loyalty shifts their position when circumstances change. You recognize that the person who discouraged your ambition is suddenly uncomfortable with your progress. These are not isolated incidents, they are patterns revealing structure. Another sign of exposure is emotional inconsistency from those around you. When someone harbors concealed opposition, they often struggle to maintain emotional steadiness as your life advances. They may oscillate between friendliness and coldness. They may alternate between encouragement and sarcasm. Their inconsistency reflects internal conflict. They want proximity to your growth, but they resent your momentum. They want association with your success, but they feel threatened by your potential. That internal tension eventually manifests outwardly, and when it does, it becomes visible. You may also notice an increase in projection. Individuals who feel exposed often project their own intentions onto you. They accuse you of being distant when they are withdrawing. They claim you have changed when they are uncomfortable with your growth. They imply that you are secretive when they are concealing their own motives. Projection is often a subconscious defense mechanism when hidden intentions are under pressure. It is easier for someone to accuse you than to confront their own misalignment. But projection eventually reveals the very thing it tries to hide. Exposure does not always look dramatic. Sometimes it looks like subtle behavioral shifts that, over time, become impossible to ignore. Sometimes it looks like awkward pauses in conversations where confidence once flowed. Sometimes it looks like distance forming without clear explanation. Sometimes it looks like energy that feels different, even when words remain polite. You are noticing these shifts because your awareness has increased, and awareness is evidence of elevation. The deeper insight here is this: exposure is confirmation, not coincidence. It is not random that multiple signs are appearing at once. It is not accidental that your intuition feels stronger precisely when behavior becomes clearer. It is not by chance that others are beginning to see what you once carried alone. You are being aligned with truth. Truth simplifies decisions. Truth clarifies boundaries. Truth removes illusion. Once exposure begins, you no longer have to question your perception. You no longer have to negotiate with your instincts. You no longer have to rationalize misalignment. You simply see. And seeing changes everything. When you see clearly, you move differently. You share differently. You trust differently. You invest differently. Exposure is not just about identifying enemies. It is about refining discernment. It is about strengthening perception. It is about reinforcing trust in your own awareness. The chosen one does not operate blindly. The chosen one operates with clarity. And clarity has arrived. The signs are not meant to alarm you. They are meant to stabilize you. They are not meant to make you suspicious of everyone. They are meant to help you recognize who is aligned and who is not. Exposure narrows your focus. It sharpens your circle. It protects your energy. You have always known more than you allowed yourself to admit. Now you are witnessing confirmation. What you sensed quietly is being revealed visibly. What you carried internally is being validated externally. And as this process continues, you will find that confusion decreases while confidence increases. Because when reality confirms what your spirit already knew, you stop doubting yourself. And when you stop doubting yourself, you move with power. Now that exposure is unfolding, the most important question is not who was against you. The real question is what this means for your next level. Because exposure is not the climax of your story, it is the transition point. It is the shift between who you were and who you are becoming. When enemies are exposed, you do not need to fight. That instinct to defend yourself, to explain, to confront, to clear your name immediately, understand that it comes from a lower level of operation. At higher levels, battles are rarely won through noise. They are won through positioning. When truth surfaces naturally, it carries more authority than any argument you could construct. You do not need to announce what has been revealed. You do not need to gather allies to validate your discovery. You do not need to retaliate to prove strength. Exposure is already evidence. The unveiling itself is the verdict. Truth does the work for you. When someone's intentions become visible through their own actions, your silence becomes powerful. You are no longer defending yourself against suspicion. You are no longer questioning your perception. The energy shifts in your favor without confrontation. Those who observe closely can see the contrast between composure and insecurity, between steadiness and reaction. This is empowerment. True power is not loud. It is controlled. It is deliberate. It understands that timing is more effective than impulse. When you operate from this level, you recognize that reacting emotionally would only dilute the clarity that exposure has created. There is another layer to this empowerment. You are being released from toxic alignments. Some connections were never meant to support your long-term elevation. They were temporary assignments. They were situational alliances. They were learning experiences. But as long as their intentions remained hidden, you could not fully detach without uncertainty. Exposure removes uncertainty. You no longer have to wonder. You no longer have to rationalize. You no longer have to debate internally whether you are being too harsh or too sensitive. The evidence has aligned with your intuition, and that alignment grants freedom. Release is not rejection, it is refinement. As you ascend, your circle must become more intentional. Not everyone can accompany you to greater visibility, greater responsibility, greater influence. Toxic alignment is subtle. It drains your focus. It divides your attention. It introduces friction into your progress. When that alignment dissolves, you regain momentum. Momentum is essential at your next level. The next level requires clarity of mind and steadiness of emotion. It requires the ability to move without constantly scanning for hidden resistance. It requires trust in your environment. Exposure removes what could compromise that trust. Now the question becomes how you respond strategically. Maintain strategic silence. Silence is often misunderstood as weakness, but in reality, it is restraint. It is discipline. It is confidence that does not require immediate validation. When exposure occurs, there can be a temptation to speak on it, to hint at it, to indirectly address it. Resist that impulse. Silence allows truth to continue unfolding without interference. It prevents unnecessary escalation. It protects your energy from being entangled in drama. Silence also creates psychological contrast. While others may scramble to manage perception, you remain composed. Composure communicates strength more effectively than confrontation. Observe instead of reacting. Observation sharpens strategy. Reaction blurs it. When you react impulsively, you reveal your emotional state. When you observe, you gather insight. You see who aligns with truth and who aligns with manipulation. You notice who distances themselves and who steps closer. You identify who respects your silence and who tries to provoke you. Observation turns exposure into information. Information informs positioning. Positioning determines outcome. This is how you move at higher levels, not through emotional retaliation, but through controlled awareness. You do not need to correct every narrative. You do not need to dismantle every false impression. Over time, consistency reveals character more convincingly than confrontation ever could. Focus on your higher purpose and mission. Exposure can be distracting if you allow it to become your central focus. It can pull you into side conversations. It can tempt you into proving points that do not require proof. But your next level demands concentration. What is your assignment? What are you building? What vision are you pursuing? These questions matter more than who opposed you. Because opposition is temporary, purpose is enduring. When you remain centered on your mission, exposure becomes peripheral. It becomes a background event rather than a defining moment. Your energy returns to creation instead of correction. Your attention shifts from defense to development. This is strategic alignment. Alignment means your thoughts, actions, and direction are unified. You are no longer divided between trusting and doubting, between advancing and defending. Exposure has clarified who cannot move forward with you. Now your responsibility is to move forward anyway. There is something powerful that happens when you stop fighting battles that truth has already won. You conserve energy. You elevate perspective. You operate from abundance rather than scarcity. You recognize that your destiny is not fragile. No one can block what is destined for the chosen one. This is not arrogance. It is recognition of alignment. When something is meant for you at a certain level of growth, it is tied to your development, not to someone else's approval. People may attempt to delay. They may attempt to discourage. They may attempt to discredit. But if your growth is genuine and your alignment is steady, obstruction cannot override destiny. Opposition often collapses under its own weight. When hidden agendas are exposed, those who carried them must manage the consequences of their own inconsistency. Energy once directed at undermining you must now be redirected towards self-preservation. The same pressure that once targeted you begins to circle back to its source. What tried to oppose you is collapsing on its own, not because you attacked it, not because you confronted it publicly, but because misalignment cannot sustain itself indefinitely in the presence of clarity. Illusion requires confusion to survive. Once confusion dissolves, illusion weakens. You may notice that those who once seemed confident in their opposition begin to retreat. Their tone softens, their presence diminishes, their influence shrinks. The structure they built on hidden intent begins to crack. This is not revenge, it is consequence, and you do not need to engineer consequence. Your role is not to destroy what opposed you. Your role is to outgrow it. As you step into your next level, your focus shifts from who betrayed you to what is ahead of you, from who doubted you to what you are building, from who resisted you to where you are going. This is empowerment. Empowerment is not proving people wrong, it is proving yourself consistent. It is maintaining discipline when emotions attempt to dictate reaction. It is choosing elevation when retaliation feels justified. It is understanding that your silence can speak louder than your defense. Strategic alignment also requires emotional regulation. Do not underestimate the importance of composure. When exposure occurs, there can be an internal surge of validation mixed with frustration. Validation because you were right. Frustration because you endured uncertainty for so long. Acknowledge both without letting either control you. You are right to trust your intuition, but you are also wise enough now not to weaponize that validation. Growth is demonstrated through restraint. As you move forward, you will notice something subtle but powerful. The weight you once carried begins to lift. The tension that once lingered in certain interactions dissolves. The mental energy spent analyzing behavior decreases. You feel lighter. That lightness is alignment. Alignment feels like clarity. It feels like breathing without pressure. It feels like stepping into rooms without scanning for hidden hostility. It feels like confidence that does not require constant reinforcement. This is preparation for your next level. Higher levels demand greater emotional maturity. They demand discernment without bitterness. They demand strength without aggression. They demand focus without distraction. Exposure has trained you for this. You now understand that not everyone who stands near you stands for you. You now recognize that elevation creates both admiration and insecurity. You now know that opposition is often a sign of advancement, but most importantly, you understand that your destiny is not dependent on unanimous approval. The chosen one does not rise because everyone agrees. The chosen one rises because alignment, timing, and growth converge. And when they converge, resistance becomes irrelevant. What tried to slow you is losing momentum. What tried to confuse you is losing clarity. What tried to undermine you is losing stability. Meanwhile, you are gaining perspective. You are gaining discipline. You are gaining position. This is what exposure means for your next level. It means you advance without distraction. You detach without drama. You elevate without apology. You build without fear. And as you continue forward, remember this. The collapse of opposition is not your responsibility to manage. It is simply the byproduct of your growth. You are not fighting to survive. You are aligning to ascend. As we close this message, understand what this moment truly represents. This exposure is proof that you are moving forward. It is evidence of progress, not regression. It confirms that you have outgrown environments where deception could comfortably exist. It shows that your awareness has sharpened, your discernment has matured, and your presence has strengthened. Nothing is unraveling in your life without purpose. What is being revealed is aligning you with your next elevation. It may not have felt comfortable. Revelation rarely does. Seeing clearly can sting at first. Realizing who was never truly aligned can bring a moment of disappointment. But clarity is always better than illusion. Truth is always stronger than comfort built on false foundations. What is leaving your life was never stable enough to sustain your future. This is not a loss. It is purification. Purification removes what contaminates growth. It clears what distracts focus. It separates what drains from what strengthens. You are not being stripped of support. You are being refined for expansion. When misaligned people fall away, space is created for aligned partnerships. When hidden motives surface, authentic connections become easier to recognize. When confusion dissolves, confidence increases. And through all of this, remember something deeply important. You are not alone. You are being guided. There is timing in what is revealed. There is protection in what is removed. There is intention in what collapses. Even when you could not see the full picture, you were being positioned. Even when you doubted your instincts, they were protecting you. Even when you felt isolated in your perception, truth was preparing to surface. You are not behind. You are not defeated. You are not destabilized. You are advancing. Stand firm in that understanding. Let exposure strengthen your confidence, not harden your heart. Let clarity sharpen your focus, not fuel resentment. Let alignment guide your next steps with calm authority. The exposure is not your downfall, it is your confirmation. If this message spoke to you, like this video, share it with another chosen one, and subscribe to this channel for more empowering messages.